Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we are going to talk about how can we record and replay a load test script using Neoload. Neoload is one of the very good commercial tools, or we can say a licensed tool that is available in the market for performance or load stress testing. So a quick intro to about the agenda that we are going to talk about today. First we'll give an introduction about myself, then we are going to introduce the Neotest Neoload, then we are going to talk about controllers and load generators, then we are going to get understand a comparative comparison between Neoload cloud version versus an on-premise version. Script preparation process we are going to talk about. When we start preparing a script, there is a process or there are a few steps that we should consider while creating a script, so which is a generic, which is applicable to any of the tool irrespective of licensed, commercial, whatever tool you are using. And then we are going to practically go and see how we do the recording and replay of a script using Neoload. Before we move on, this is like I would like to share you information about Facebook groups. That is, the name is Performance Testing Experts. Here we already have around 4700 plus experts. Here we ask queries, we share our experience, we share our thoughts, and a lot of exciting things are happening. A lot of knowledgeable people are there, and like which is and everyone is there to help you solve your problems. Even people do refer each other for better job placements as well. So do join this group, and do not forget to subscribe to the channel, and do not forget to press the bell button, and also like this video. And if you think there is anyone who is facing any difficulty, do share this video with him as well. A quick introduction to myself. So I am Jitin Chadha. I am founding director at Perfeasy Enterprises Private Limited. We are a software testing services organization located in India, or I would say Noida based, Delhi NCR based organization. As an individual, I have around 15 years of experience in performance and security testing. I have done about 140 plus assignments. I have worked across technologies, domains, insurance, e-commerce, m-commerce, media, content publishing. So I have worked with a lot of clients as well, like Max Life Insurance from the insurance domain, EXA. In banking, I have worked with BNP Paribas. Adobe was one of our client. Aon was one of our clients. Cimex in Mexico. Yepme was one of the e-commerce clients like Snapdeal, Fashion and You, Clovia. So a lot of work on different clients I have been doing. I have also have a few certifications. One is HP LoadRunner AIS. One is IBM Certified Solution Designer RPT, Rational Performance Tester. IBM Certified Specialist for Rational App Scan, which is a security testing tool. IBM Certified Specialist for Rational Robo. If you think I can be of any help to any one of you, if you have any query, if you need any guidance, I will be very happy and I will try my best to help you out. So please, if you think I can be of any support or I can be of any benefit, do connect with me on LinkedIn and we can connect. Let's move to the topic of the today, that is the Neoload. So first we are going to talk about what is Neoload. Neoload is a powerful load and performance testing solution designed for web and mobile applications. So it is only for web and mobile applications. It helps us realistically simulate large number of users, so we can simulate as many users as we want depending on the type of application and the type of usage or the reach of the application that we are going to test. We can also analyze the server behavior using the monitoring modules. When I say analyze the server behavior, it is like the what are the resource consumption or other parameters on the server side when the load is being generated from the tool. It also has support for very new technologies like Flex, Silverlight, Ajax Push, WebSocket. So a lot of new things keep happening. On the right side, if you can see the execution platforms and the push technologies like Oracle Forms, Silverlight, Flash, etc. Execution platforms like .NET, Java, PHP. I'm sorry. It also supports web services, videos, ERPs, CRMs. It also supports mobile apps, and the latest addition to this list is Citrix. And by the time you see this video, there is a possibility that they have added something new into this as well. And a very exciting feature that Neoload provides is it also helps you to convert your automation scripts to performance scripts. And the tool that that are supported by Neoload are Tricentis Tosca, Selenium, Ranorex, Workshop Certify. Let's talk about the concept of the controller and the load generators. Why I'm discussing, because this is a very important aspect here. When we are going to generate the load, we need to understand what is a controller, what are the load generators, and these concepts are very important. So first, on the right side, if you can see, this is AUT, that is application under test. So there are database servers, app server, the environment is there. So here we have one controller which from where we are going to give the inputs. When I say inputs like how many users I'm going to run, or how many scripts that I want to run in at one go. It can be single script, or it can be combination of multiple scripts. And I would need to give which browser I want to simulate, how much network bandwidth I want to simulate, those kind of settings. The scenario designing, the setting up of the population, those things is done on the controller side. And it is the task of controller to send the scripts, the test data, these load settings to generators, different load generators automatically. So controller will manage the scripts, the load test scripts that we have prepared, the test data that is used to run the scripts, load distribution. So we need to distribute. So there are different parameters. When I said distribution, there can be 20% users I want to run using Firefox. 30% I want to run using Chrome. 20% I want to run Apple browser. So those kind of distribution can also be there. Or we want to run login for 30% users, we want to run search for 5% users, so those kind of distribution will also be. So all these distribution etc is controlled by controller. Fourth is monitoring statistics. When I say monitoring statistics, the monitoring of the server side. What is the CPU consumption that was happening at the load of, let's say, 5,000 users or 10,000 users. So we need to capture the server side statistics. This is also managed by the controller. And fifth is result correlations. So multiple load generators will produce multiple results. So the response time statistics, the failure statistics, the screenshots, the transactions, the request, images, the data related to everything. So everything has to be collated at one place, and we need to see a combined report. This thing is done by controller. So here if you see, when we would trigger the load test, the load generators are going to simulate the load. The virtual user load will be generated from these load generators to the AUT. So now the application will get loaded depending on the scenarios that we have simulated. And in parallel to this, we should also configure monitors for CPU, memory, network, the disk usage of the hard disk usage, I would say, from the application servers, the database servers, or other architectural components whichever are present on the server environment. So all these things are going to generate a lot of data, and everything is going to be managed by the controller. Next important topic is to understand is Neoload Cloud versus on-premises. This is a generic, I would say, model, and similar kind of things you would also see in other tools as well, where we have one controller which is going to give command to multiple load generators. Now, load generators can be two types. One is on the left side, if you see, these are cloud load generators, and they can generate different type of networks, different types of devices. On the right side, if you see, these are on-premise load generators. The same data they can also generate, and the load will get generated on the app server, database server, website. These are the server side servers, or the application server information, that, or application server where we are generating the load. And if you see this arrow, this arrow represents the monitoring statistics like CPU, memory, etc., that are going to the controller. Now, what is the difference between cloud load generators and on-premise load generators? From application perspective, there is no difference. The only difference is the load generator machines that are going to generate these loads are cloud machines, or they are hardware machines that are present inside our premises, on our office network, or in our own data center, we can also say. So those are on premise, while if the machines that we use to generate the load are the cloud machines like AWS, AWS, Rackspace, Google Cloud, Azure, so those kind of things are being used, so they are called as cloud load generators. While we choose the type of load generator that we should use, there are a few challenges that we should know with the on-premise load generators. First is availability of high network bandwidth. If that every office has a limited network bandwidth that is available to that office premises, and that network is also being shared between different people who are working in the same premises. So network availability is a problem if we are thinking of generating 10,000 users. So see the Mbps or the Gbps kind of bandwidth that would be required to generate that kind of load will be very high, and it becomes very difficult to get the internet speed. That, so understand the difference between the LAN speed and the internet speed. When we are generating load, the application server is always on the internet side, so we need to measure the internet bandwidth, not the size of the LAN connection that we have. Second one is arranging high configuration machines. So when I say the 10,000 user load, let's assume a best case can be one machine can generate 2,000 users. So we need 5 machines to generate 10,000 users. When I say 2000 users can be generated with one machine, depending on the size of script, the complexity of script, the complexity of script plus the logging that we are making, the data that is being generated by the application, etc. These are the factors that restrict the number of users that can be generated using one single machine. So there can be depending on the application to application, there are some situations where one machine is able to generate only 200 users also, and some light kind of scripts we are even able to generate up to 2000 users as well. So depending on the configuration of the machine, more users can be generated. So arranging these machines, these kind of high configuration server grade machines inside office premises becomes very difficult, and the cost becomes too high for this. Third is limited geography, which is also a very important aspect. When we are using cloud load generators, there are multiple locations that are provided by all the all the cloud providers, be it Azure, be it Google, be it AWS. So everyone provides some data, has cloud machines available in India, in Singapore, in US, in UK. So depending on where our application is being hosted and where our users are going to access the server, we can generate the load generation machine on from those locations itself. But in case of on-premise, it becomes almost impossible to get machines in different locations or in different geographies. So that is where we would prefer to generate the load from cloud load generators rather than on-premise load generators. This activity would require that we set up the load generator machines on the cloud machines, or set up the machines, switch on those machines when we are going to run the test, close the machines when we are completed with the testing activity. So to solve those problems, Neoload also has integration with all the major cloud providers. So there is just, you just need to select the locations where or the provider which we want to use, and the the Neoload tool itself will take care of all the task of initiating the load generator machines, running the test. Everything is taken care by Neoload itself. You need not worry about how it is being done at the backend. You just need to buy the credits and you have to just pay the cost. Now let's move on to the script preparation process. First step, so when I say script preparation, script has to be prepared for a workflow. When I say workflow, example of workflow can be launch the application, log into the application, uh, select something, buy a product, and log out. Another example of workflow, so workflow should be end-to-end user activity. Can another activity can be example of workflow can be launch the application, search for a e-commerce application, let's assume, search for a shirt, select one shirt from the results that are displayed, see the prices, and exit. So depending on the steps in the workflow or the user activity, we should make sure that we understand the workflow properly so that the recording happens properly. During the recording, we should not keep entering the wrong user ID password, or we should not select something wrong. We click on 2-3 other transactions. So the response times, the results may get hampered if we miss out something, or there can be a possibility that we miss some request, or we may add some additional request during the recording if we were not prepared. So make sure that you understand the workflow properly. Every steps we should always know before we have performed. So make sure that manually you have run the workflows once, twice, 2-3 times till you are very familiar with the application and the specific to that workflow at least. So then we move on to recording of the workflow. So every step should be recorded as a separate transaction. So this helps us in creating modularized approach for our script preparation. And just a caveat, this process that we are talking about is irrespective of any tool. If you are using JMeter, if you are using LoadRunner, if you are using Neoload, if you are using Stress Simulate, make sure you create separate transactions for each step, or I would say for each page, so that we know which page sent which request. So there is no ambiguity and there is no complexity when after we complete the recording, and we need not sort the scripts which request is for which page. And make sure that we select or type the transaction before we perform that activity. After we launch the application, if I am going to do the login, first I should create the transaction and then I should click on the submit login button, so that the login request are gets recorded in the login transaction. Next step is replay and validate each response. Make sure that all the steps are recorded properly. The recording is the most important aspect in every performance testing script preparation process. So if the recording is not correct, the results cannot be correct. So the results you share can be very different than what real users observe when the application goes live. So make sure that all the transactions are properly recorded. There are no junk calls that gets recorded. There are many situations where Firefox calls are being recorded or some plugin calls are recorded. So make sure to remove those calls. Make sure you visit each and every transaction and see if there are any junk calls. Remove them. Only keep the calls that are relevant to our application. Then replay the recorded script and see what responses are coming. Is the responses that are coming are as expected or not? Here another important aspect that we should make sure is from the tool perspective, one point that tool considers is for every 200 or 300 status code, the tool will say application passed, or that page is passed, or that request is passed. But for us there can be a situation that the page was failed, but the status code is still 200. For example, when we enter a wrong user ID or password, it always gives us a response. So response code will always be 200, but the message says incorrect user ID password, check again. So tool will not know if the login was correctly happening or it was failing. So make sure you go and see the response content itself, rather than just looking at the green tick or the green mark that is shared by the tool based on the status code. So make sure that you go to every request and see the response, if the response is coming as expected or not. The next step is, once we are sure that the recording is correct, all the transactions are correctly recorded, the requests are correctly recorded, we have removed the junk request, and all the recording is correct, then we should move to customization of the script, where we do correlation, parameterization, adding the delay so to simulate the think time, pacing, those things, adding the validation points, the to make sure that the correct pages are opening under load also. And we may need to add some other component like for the if else, the loops, those things, depending on the scenario that we are trying to simulate. Enough of the theory, let's move on to the tool and see how it works. So I am going to switch to Neoload. So once we open the Neoload, this will be the screen that you would see on the first tab. So I am going to create a new project. Click on this new project, give the name of the project. Let me just move to a proper location and give the name as, I am going to give the name as Perfeasy, which is our organization, which is our bread and butter. These videos are just to help guys out, and my bread and butter is the Perfeasy. So the first, you will see a wizard which can help you or guide you in recording the script, those things. But right now I'm going to also give you a quick introduction about the interface, so I'm going to close this. Here if you see, first tab is design, second tab is runtime, and third is results. Design is to create the script, make sure the scripts are correctly recorded, you replay the script, do the customization, so everything happens in this design tab. Then when we run the load test scenario, we design the scenario here, and can also see that statistics during the runtime, like errors, response time, those statistics that are runtime. These are updated almost instantaneously. The third tab, results, is after we complete the results. As we have created a new project, so there are no results that are previously available, so you are seeing a blank. But once we run the test, we complete the testing scenarios, we would also see the results here, the values, the graphs, multiple graphs like average duration, minimum duration, those kind of things, errors that were encountered, the alerts, etc. Today our focus will be on recording and replay the script, so we are going to focus on the design tab and on the user path of the design tab. In the design tab we have user path, where we are going to work now. We also have populations, where we can give the what is the percent distribution that we want to give, which browser we want to select, we want to select any cache etc or not, those kind of data is given here. We can also go to the monitor and add monitoring agents here that I was talking about, no, in the previous slides, where I was telling that we monitor the server side statistics like CPU, memory, those things. So here we add the servers new monitoring agent and make sure that the server statistics are also recording during our load test run. But now let's focus on the recording and replay. Just before that, one thing I made. So at the bottom, if you see delay, loop, these are the additional components that are provided by the tool to help us out in creating the scripts and making sure the script is running or performing as a real life user would perform. So to start the recording, I am going to click this start recording button. First tab is general tab, which first asks for the name. Name is jpet store underscore select product. This is my name of the script. I can record in action or the init. Init are the folder or the whatever requests that are recorded in init will be executed only once per user, but the scripts or the request or the pages that are recorded in actions can be repeated depending on the settings that we give that in the scenario designing. Right now I am going to record in actions. Then it asks for the type of browser that we want to use for record. Here I am going to select Internet Explorer to record my script. Click on OK, and it is going to first clear the browser cache. It is going to delete the cookies, and then it is going to open the browser. It is also deleting my browser history. So it is saying please wait while the browser history is deleted. Now it is trying to open the browser. Once the browser is opened completely, you will see a message related to Neoload that Neoload is now recording the script. So see here, this Neoload recording, please enter the URL to start recording. So now I am going to first give the name of the transaction in which I want to record my script. So first transaction I want is launch. So make sure that you give the name of the transaction before you perform that activity. So I'm going to copy the URL and press on enter. So it says the site is not secure. I clicked on more information and I'm going to click on go on to the web page. Not recommended, but we are going to do this. So next step is enter the store. So first make sure to give the name of the transaction before performing the activity. So enter the store, I'm going to add in the transaction and then click on the activity. Next I am going to do is click category. Category is fish first, so I am going to click on fish. Why I keep giving the transactions? So that every page is recorded as a separate transaction. So now I am going to select one product ID. So I give select one product ID and then click on the product ID. Now I am going to do add to cart. So click on add to cart. I am going to stop here only. So I close the browser, and here if you see the red button, this yellow is to pause the recording and this red is to black is to stop the recording. So I am going to click on the stop. Now another wizard opens and it will give us the list of the domains that were recorded for this activity. there will be situations where some junk requests get recorded from some other domain, so make sure that those are not there. So here we only have that patch source, so this is correct for us. Click on next. Do you want to search for dynamic parameters or not? This is the question. We can skip the step or we can do a search. So when I say this, what is this meaning of this dynamic parameter, this framework rules, the generic dynamic parameters? These are the correlation rules. So automatic correlation. If we want to do automatic correlation, we should click on this next, else we should skip the step. Right now we are focusing on record replay, so I am going to skip this step. Do you want to use recorded think times, or we want to give some specific value of the think time, or we can also give a parameter also. Right now let's keep the recorded think time itself. Click on next and finish. Now we have our script recorded. In the actions we would see launch, enter the store, click category, select one product ID and add to cart. I said that once we record the script, make sure to go and see if the correct requests are being recorded or some junk requests were recorded. In the launch, we expect yes, this, the slash was there, very right. In enter the store, catalog.action was there, yes, very correct. In click category, yes. So this is the request where we clicked on fish. So yes, this is also correctly recorded. Then we selected one product. So let's click on this plus, go to the request and see yes, F1SW01. This was the product ID that we clicked on. Then we moved on to add to cart, and add to cart. Yes, the EST1 was visible. This was the product which we added to the cart. So yes, my recording is correct. So we have not missed any request. So this is the purpose of this activity, is to make sure that we have not missed anything first. Now what is the next step? Next step is to make sure that the replay is also happening properly. How we do the replay here? Here the terminology that is called used by Neoload is check user path. So let me click on this check user path. So it is going to show me the user path that is going to run. See the user path, start checking, flag request, those are options available. What is the advanced available? The localhost, so which load generator it is going to use. Is it going to handle the cache as recorded, or a new user, or a returning user? Browser, if we want to change, we can change here as well which browser we want to run, or we want to run the recorded browser only. So here the options are available for different type of browsers: Linux, Mac, Windows. Then the mobile browser like Android, Samsung, Sony, BlackBerry Bold, Symbian, Nokia N8, HTC, iPhone browsers, tablets are also available, iPad, iOS is also available. So different browsers are available. Right now we are going to keep it recorded one. WAN emulation is the network bandwidth that we want to simulate. So by default it is unlimited, but if we want to simulate the bandwidth, we are going to talk about these things when we design the scenario. So right now we are going to keep the settings as per the default. Here is an important parameter. If we want to run multiple iterations, we can also give more than one, but by default it is one iteration, and we should run one iteration and see if the recording was correctly done. I am going to click on OK and click on start checking. So now it is going to replay my script. Complete steps are going to be replayed, and I can see if my recording was happening properly or not. Once we are sure that the recording is correct, then we should go for correlation, parameterization, adding the timers, or adding these actions or these components like if else, switch controller, try catch, stop, fork, wait until, those kind of things, depending on what requirement we have, or what kind of scenario we are trying to simulate. So this was quick. So right now it is at add to cart. So if you see user path JPEG store select product contains 4 errors. What are the 4 errors? First, just expand this. So the failures were happening at the favicon.ico 1, 2, 3, 4, or 4 are 404 messages for favicon.ico. So here make sure that in the application there is a possibility that the application itself is throwing this 404. So this is not our script issue, this is the application issue itself. So we can also remove this in case the same 400 status is being given in application itself. So now let's see one by one the pages that were. First we clicked on launch. Oh sorry, this one. So this is the response. We got HTTP 2.0 200 status code, and the body of the response is this. This was the request, get request for petstore.octopuff.com. These were the headers that were passed. Assertions right now you will not see because we haven't added any validation or the assertion point. So here it is blank. So right now we can see the request and the response, the text format. If there was any variable that we use for using correlation parameter something, so that would be visible here. What server were being called we can see here also. If we want to see the HTML page, so this is, so understand the difference between this. This is the request and this is the page. Here also if you see, this folder is transaction. If I go one level down, so this is page and this is the request that so there each page can have multiple requests. When I say multiple requests, one page will have one main request and there will be multiple secondary calls like style sheets, JavaScript, CSS, that is style sheet itself, image files, these favicon files, those things are there. So this is page and this is the request. So if we want to see the page view, the HTML view of the page, we need to select the page and then go to recorded HTML rendering and see the which page was displayed. But if we want to see the request response, so we need to select the request and see what request was sent and what was the response that was captured. Let me show you one more thing. We can also do a compare HTML rendering. So this is going to compare with the recording itself. So right now next step was after launch. Launch is correctly happening in the replay as well. So let's move on to this action enter the store, I would say. So in the enter the store, click on the page to see if the correct page appeared. Yes, these are the tabs. So understand one thing, this is not a browser, this is just a simple browser where a few JavaScripts or style sheet will be rendered. So the rendering will not happen properly, so we need to see the relevant text if that is present or not. So these are the menus that were available, so this step also happened properly. Let's see the request as well. Yes, 200 response code appeared. And what is the response body? Yeah, see the catalogs, the cats, various breeds, turtle, snake, those things are available. So these are the tags that were visible on the page by default on the screen. So this also appeared. So here we should not focus on the response code, we should go and see the response body if that was correct or not. Let's move on to the next step. Next step was click category. So for click category, let's see the page view. Yes, when I clicked on the fish category, these were the list of products that appeared. So in replay also the same is appearing. That means we are correct. We can also do the same thing, go to the response and see the data that was displayed or response came as a response from the server, and make sure the correct page appeared. Next was we selected a product ID, angelfish, and yes, est1 that appeared. Then we clicked on est1 to for add to cart. So and this screen appeared same. So my recording is correct. So I have done the recording as well as replay to make sure, and I have validated that my script is correctly recorded. So next step will be to modify the script. So make sure when we are going to do the modification, make sure that you delete this close this check user path, and all the changes that you want to make in the script you should make here. Let's say I want to disable these favicon.ico calls. So I just right click, select that those requests, and right click, uncheck that enable, so it will go away. Save the file, make sure that you are saving your project properly, and next step will be to modify the script. For example, we would need to modify the script for changing these categories, or we need to correlate the product IDs, or we need to correlate these item IDs, so that our script is dynamic or generic, to make sure it can handle all kind of scripts. So but that would make this session too long, so we are going to stop here itself, and we'll have another video where we will be going to talk about the correlations, parameterization, adding validations in this neoload, or how do we design the scenarios. We are going to talk about populations, we are going to talk about the runtimes, charts that are available, the errors, etc., and finally the reports or results that are available with the tool. We are going to talk about them, but in coming videos. Right now we are going to stop in this record replay itself. So thank you guys for watching this video. I hope this is going to help you out and make your performance testing activities easy. So, and do not forget to give your feedback in the comments, or any idea or anything that you think I missed. Please give suggestions in the comment box, and it is always better to have a discussion with multiple people, and then only we all grow together. So please do comment, please like this video, share this with your friends, and happy learning, and best of luck for your careers. Thank you.